Please, let's make it quick tonight." Magnolia's voice was steady, but her hands trembled. She'd crossed an ocean for this moment. Every mail-order bride knew what came next. It was the price of passage, the cost of a new life, the duty that couldn't be avoided. But when the rancher froze, his face going pale, his breath catching like she'd slapped him, she didn't understand. Men always took what they were owed. That's how the world worked. Except Jacob Hayes wasn't like other men, and what he did next would shatter every expectation she had about marriage, duty, and what it meant to be truly loved. Jacob's hat fell from his hands, hit the wooden floor with a soft thud that seemed to echo in the quiet cabin. "What did you say?" His voice cracked. Magnolia stood straighter, forcing herself to meet his eyes. "I say, let us make it quick. Is tradition, yes? Is what happens on wedding night." The fire crackled behind her. Outside, a coyote called to the Montana darkness. Inside this small cabin that smelled of pine wood and coffee, something was breaking. She could see it in his face. "You think—" Jacob started, then stopped, swallowed hard. "You think I brought you all the way from Norway to just—" He couldn't finish the sentence. Magnolia's confusion deepened. "Is not what husbands do? Not this husband." The words came out fierce, broken. "Not like this. Not with you looking at me like you're about to face a firing squad." She blinked. "I don't understand." "I know you don't." Jacob ran his hands through his hair. "And that's what's killing me right now." He started pacing. 3 steps to the window. 3 steps back. Like a caged animal trying to find a way out. "In your letters," he said finally, "you wrote about wanting a partner. Someone who would see you as an equal. Someone who wouldn't treat you like property or burden." "Yes, but nothing." He stopped pacing, faced her fully. "Did you think those were just pretty words? That I was lying?" Magnolia's throat tightened. Men always lie. The words hung between them like smoke. Jacob flinched like she'd struck him. "Your father?" "My father. The men in timber camp. The men on ship to America. The men at every station between New York and here." Her voice stayed level, but her hands had stopped trembling. Now they were fists. "They all want same thing. They all take what they want. Only difference is some ask first and pretend it matters when you say yes. I'm not them. All men say they are not like other men." She lifted her chin. "But when door closes and no one watches, they all become same." Jacob stood very still. The firelight painted half his face gold, left the other half in shadow. "You really believe that?" he said softly. "Not a question. Is what life teaches. Then life taught you wrong." He moved suddenly, not toward her, but towards the door. Grabbed his coat from the peg. Started putting it on. Magnolia's heart jumped. "Where you go?" "Barn." "But is your house, your bed? Is wedding night?" Jacob's hands stilled on his coat buttons. "You're right. It is my house, my bed, my wedding night." He looked at her then, and his eyes held something she'd never seen in a man's eyes before. Something that looked like pain for her. "But you're also my wife. Not my property, my wife. And I won't share a bed with a woman who thinks she has to endure me." She stared at him. You don't want?" A harsh laugh escaped him. "Magnolia, I've been alone for 5 years. 5 years of talking to cattle and horses because they were the only living things that would listen. 5 years of going to sleep in a bed built for 2 and waking up to silence so thick it choked me." He took a step toward her, stopped, kept his distance like she was something precious that might break. "So yes," he continued, his voice dropping to something raw and honest, I want so badly it terrifies me. But not like this, never like this." "Then how?" "I want you to be with me. Not because tradition says so. Not because you think you owe me. Not because you're afraid of what happens if you say no." His eyes held hers. "I want you to choose me because your heart says yes. Even if that takes months, years, even if it never happens." Magnolia felt something shift in her chest. Something that had been locked tight for so long she'd forgotten it was there. "You would wait. You would sleep in barn and wait? I'd sleep on rocks in the rain if that's what it took for you to feel safe. Why?" The word burst out. "Why you do this? What you gain?" Jacob smiled then, sad and genuine at the same time. "Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. But I'll tell you what I won't gain. I won't gain a wife who flinches when I touch her, who closes her eyes and endures me, who counts the minutes until I'm done. He buttoned his coat fully. My first wife, Martha, she chose me. Every day she chose me. And when she died, when I lost her and our son in one terrible night, I promised myself something. His voice thickened. I promised that if I ever found someone again, if I ever took that risk again, it would be real, built on choice and respect and partnership. Or it wouldn't be at all. Magnolia's eyes burned. You loved her very much. I did. And she deserved that love, just like you deserve to be more than an obligation to yourself. He moved to the door, stopped with his hand on the latch. I'll be in the barn. There's bread and cheese in the pantry if you're hungry. Fresh water in the pitcher. And Magnolia? He looked back at her. Lock this door behind me. Not to keep me out, to remind yourself that you're safe here. That you have the power to say yes or no. Tonight and every night after, then he was gone. The door closed softly behind him. Magnolia stood frozen in the firelight, listening to his boots crunch across the frozen ground toward the barn. The cabin felt too big suddenly. Too quiet, she moved to the door. Put her hand on the lock. Her father had never given her a lock. The timber camp had never given her a lock. The ship to America certainly hadn't given her a lock, but this stranger, this man she'd married this afternoon, was giving her the power to lock him out of his own house, because he wanted her to feel safe. The tears came then, hot and fast and unstoppable. She locked the door and slid down to sit against it, her wedding dress pooling around her, and cried for the first time since leaving Norway. Not sad tears, not scared tears, tears of a woman who just discovered that maybe, just maybe, not all men were the same after all. Morning came cold and clear. Magnolia woke on the floor where she'd cried herself to sleep, her wedding dress wrinkled, her face tight with dried tears. For a moment she didn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back, the wedding, the cabin, Jacob's face when she'd asked him to make it quick, the barn. He'd slept in the barn. She stood quickly, her body protesting the hard floor. Through the window she could see smoke rising from the barn's small chimney. He'd kept a fire going all night in the cold. Her chest tightened. The door was still locked. She'd locked it. He'd given her the power, and she'd used it, and he'd honored it by staying away. Magnolia unlocked the door with shaking hands and stepped onto the porch. The Montana morning bit through her thin dress. Frost covered everything, turning the ranch into something from a fairy tale. Jacob emerged from the barn, carrying 2 buckets of fresh milk. He saw her and stopped. They stared at each other across 30 feet of frozen ground. Morning, he said finally. His voice was hoarse. He looked exhausted. You are cold, she said. It wasn't a question. I'm fine. You lie. She crossed her arms. You sleep in barn with no proper blankets in freezing night, and you say you are fine. A small smile touched his lips. Been through worse. This is not competition of who suffers more. She stepped off the porch, her bare feet hitting the frozen ground. The cold shot up her legs, but she didn't stop. You give me warm cabin and soft bed, and you take barn and hard ground. This is... She searched for the English word. Backwards. You're going to freeze. Jacob set down the milk buckets and started toward her. Get back inside. No. Magnolia. No. She planted her feet. We talk now, here, before I lose courage. He stopped a few feet away, close enough that she could see the dark circles under his eyes, the way his hands were red from cold. You didn't sleep, she said. Neither did you. I could see your shadow moving past the window all night, so he'd been watching, making sure she was safe even from a distance. The tightness in her chest grew worse. I think about what you say, Magnolia began, her breath making clouds in the cold air. About choosing, about wanting, about... Her voice caught. About being more than duty. Jacob waited, didn't push. Just listened with those patient eyes that saw too much. In Norway, when I am small, my mother tell me story. Magnolia wrapped her arms tighter around herself. About girl who is cursed by witch. Curse make her strong, stronger than any man. At first girl think is blessing. She can do anything, lift anything, protect anyone. But Jacob prompted gently, but nobody wants woman who is stronger than them. Men are afraid. Women are jealous. Girl becomes alone. Magnolia's voice dropped. So she hide her strength. She pretend to be weak. She make herself small. But it's too late. Everyone knows truth. She lives rest of life trying to be something she is not, and still nobody loves her. She looked at Jacob directly. I think I am that girl in story. Magnolia, no, listen. She held up a hand. I come here thinking I must be useful, must work hard, must earn my place by being strong when you need strength and quiet when you need quiet and, her voice broke, and available when you need that too. Because that is all I have to offer. My strength, my work, my duty. A tear slipped down her cheek, froze halfway. But last night you say no. You choose cold barn over warm bed because you want me to choose you. She laughed, but it came out like a sob. Nobody ever wants me to choose anything. Nobody ever cares what I want. And I realize I don't know what I want anymore. I forget how to want things that are not about surviving. Jacob's throat worked. What do you want right now? In this moment, I want... She looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who'd written her letters full of hope. Who'd met her at the train station with wildflowers. Who'd married her yesterday in front of God and the traveling preacher, and then refused to claim what tradition said was his. I want to not be afraid anymore. Of me. Of everything. The words poured out now. Of being too much. Of not being enough. Of hoping for good things and having them taken away. Of believing someone when they say kind words. Of, she gestured between them helplessly, of whatever this is becoming. Jacob took a careful step closer. Can I tell you what I see when I look at you? She nodded, not trusting her voice. I see a woman who crossed an ocean alone, who faced every hardship that journey threw at her and came out the other side still standing, still hoping. His eyes never left hers. I see someone who stopped my stampeding cattle with nothing but her voice and her will, who fixed 3 weeks' worth of my neglected chores in 2 days, who sings while she works, even though she thinks nobody's listening. He stepped closer again. Close enough now that she could feel warmth radiating from him despite the cold. I see someone who's been hurt so badly she's forgotten what kindness looks like, who's been used so much she thinks that's all she's good for. His voice gentled. And I see someone who deserves so much more than she believes she does. Magnolia was fully crying now. You barely know me. I know enough. And I want to know more. Everything. Every story. Every scar. Every hope you've been too afraid to say out loud. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he touched her cheek with fingers that were freezing from the cold. But only if you want to share them. Only if you choose to. Why? The question came out broken. Why you care so much about my choosing? Because Martha taught me something. His thumb brushed away a frozen tear. She taught me that love isn't about possession. It's about witnessing. Seeing someone completely, all their strength, all their fear, all their broken pieces, and choosing them anyway. Every single day. He pulled back slightly. But that only works if both people are choosing. If both people are free to say yes or no and mean it. His hand dropped to his side. So, I'm not going to touch you again unless you ask me to. I'm not going to share your bed unless you invite me. I'm not going to take anything you haven't freely given. Magnolia stared at him through her tears. And if I never ask, if I never invite, then we build a different kind of marriage. One based on partnership and respect. And maybe that's enough. He smiled sadly. I've been alone in a full bed before. I'd rather be alone in an empty barn with a partner I respect than share a bed with someone who's just enduring me. She believed him. That was the terrifying part. She actually believed him. I am cold, she said finally. I know. Go back inside. I'll bring the milk in a minute and make breakfast. No. She took a breath. Took the leap. I'm cold and you are cold and there is warm cabin with warm fire and hot coffee. We both go inside together. Hope flickered in his eyes. You sure? I am sure I'm freezing. I'm sure you are freezing. I'm sure we are both fools, standing in snow having emotional conversation when we could have emotional conversation where there is coffee. She managed a watery smile. Everything else, we figure out one day at a time. Like you say, Jacob laughed. Actually laughed, the sound startling a bird from the barn roof. One day at a time, he agreed. They walked back to the cabin together, Magnolia's bare feet leaving small prints in the frost next to Jacob's boot tracks. At the door she hesitated. I cannot promise I will choose you tomorrow, she said quietly. Or next week. I know. But today I choose coffee. And breakfast. And talking more about this partnership we build, she met his eyes. Is enough for now. It's more than enough. He gestured to the door. After you. Inside, the cabin was still warm from the banked fire. Jacob rebuilt it while Magnolia wrapped herself in a blanket. He made coffee strong enough to strip paint and scrambled eggs that were only slightly burned. They sat across from each other at the small table and ate in comfortable silence. And for the first time since leaving Norway, Magnolia felt something she'd almost forgotten was possible. She felt safe. 3 days passed, 3 days of careful distance and careful closeness, of sharing meals but not beds, of working side by side but never touching, of building something neither of them had words for yet. Jacob slept in the barn. Magnolia kept the cabin. During the day, they worked the ranch together with an efficiency that surprised them both, but something was shifting. Magnolia felt it in the way Jacob's eyes followed her when he thought she wasn't looking, in the way her breath caught when he reached past her for the coffee pot and their hands almost touched, in the small kindnesses that multiplied like wildflowers, him leaving the cabin warmer than necessary because he noticed she felt the cold, her making extra bread because she'd seen how he wolfed down breakfast. On the 4th morning, she found him in the barn repairing a bridle. The leather was old, cracked in places. He worked with patient hands, his breath making clouds in the cold air. "Why you not fix this in cabin where is warm?" she asked from the doorway. Jacob looked up, surprise flickering across his face. "Didn't want to disturb you. Thought you might be sleeping. I don't sleep much anymore." "Me neither." He set down the bridle. "Bad dreams?" "No dreams at all, just thinking." She stepped inside, pulling her shawl tighter. "About what comes next." Something in her tone made him go very still. "What do you mean?" Magnolia had rehearsed this conversation in her head a dozen times. Now the words scattered like startled birds. She forced herself to speak anyway. "I cannot keep living like this." Jacob's face went carefully blank. "I understand. When do you want to leave?" "I can arrange passage back to—" "No," she cut him off. "You misunderstand. I cannot keep living like this because it is not living, is existing, is waiting, is afraid of next step." He stood slowly. "I don't follow. You sleep in barn. I sleep in cabin. We work together like business partners. We are polite. We are careful. We never touch. We never—" She gestured helplessly. "We never do anything that feels like marriage. I thought that's what you wanted. Time, space, choice. I did want that. I do want that. But Jacob, I also want—" The words stuck in her throat. She forced them out. "I want to try. To see if maybe there is something more than partnership here." His breath caught audibly. "I want to see if maybe you are right," she continued, momentum carrying her forward. "That choosing can be different than duty. That marriage can be different than transaction. That I can be wanted for more than my strength or my work. Magnolia, but I am terrified." The admission burst out. "Because what if I try and I fail? What if I'm broken in ways I don't know? What if my father was right, and I am too much woman for any man to truly want?" Jacob crossed the distance between them in 3 strides. "Stop just short of touching her. Your father was wrong," he said fiercely. "About all of it." "You're not too much. You're not broken. And any man who made you feel that way was a coward who couldn't handle a woman with a backbone." She looked up at him, her eyes shining. "How you know this?" "Because I've watched you for 4 days. Watched you gentle a spooked horse with nothing but patience and soft words. Watched you cry over a letter from Norway and then wipe your tears and keep going. Watched you make this cold ranch feel like a home just by being in it." His hands came up slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he cupped her face with a gentleness that made her throat ache. "You want to know what I see when I look at you?" he asked softly. I see someone who's been told she's too much for so long, she started believing it. But the truth? The truth is, you're exactly enough. Exactly right. Exactly what I didn't know I was hoping for. A tear slipped down her cheek onto his thumb. I want to kiss you, he said, his voice dropping to something raw and honest. I've wanted to kiss you since that first day at the river when you asked about the soap and I made a fool of myself. But I need you to want it too. Need you to choose it. Magnolia's heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. The moment that would change everything or nothing. She could say no. He'd accept it. Would step back and keep sleeping in the barn and keep building this careful, safe partnership they'd created. Or she could leap. She started, then stopped. Tried again. I am afraid, I know. But I also want to try being less afraid. She reached up, her hand covering his where it still cupped her face. So yes, I choose yes. The kiss was gentle, tentative, his lips barely brushing hers like he was afraid she might shatter. But Magnolia wasn't made of glass. She was made of Norwegian winters and timber camp survival and an ocean crossed alone. She was made of strength that had been called curse her whole life, so when he started to pull back, she followed, deepened the kiss. Let herself feel the warmth of another person, the rightness of being chosen, the terrifying, beautiful possibility of maybe being loved. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jacob rested his forehead against hers. Okay? He whispered. Okay, she confirmed. Then, because honesty mattered, also terrified, but good terrified. Like standing at edge of cliff and knowing you can fly, but not sure you remember how. He laughed softly. I feel the same way. You are terrified too? Magnolia, I'm absolutely terrified. My wife died in my arms 5 years ago. I swore I'd never risk my heart like that again. And here you are, making me want to risk everything. She pulled back enough to see his face fully. So we are both terrified fools? Seems like it. Good. She managed a shaky smile. Is better to be terrified fools together than alone. They stood there in the barn, holding each other, while the Montana morning grew lighter outside. Eventually Jacob spoke again. So what happens now? Magnolia considered. Now I think you come sleep in cabin, in your own bed, in your own house. She met his eyes steadily. But we build up to rest. We kiss, we hold each other. We learn each other. When we are ready for more, we will both know. Relief washed over his features. One day at a time, she agreed. That night, Jacob moved back into the cabin. They lay in bed together, fully clothed, a careful distance between them, talking until the candle burned low. He told her about Martha, about the baby they'd lost, about the 5 years of grief that had nearly destroyed him. She told him about Norway, about her mother's death, about the timber camp, and the men who'd tried to break her spirit and failed. They fell asleep to the sound of each other's breathing. And when Magnolia woke in the night to find Jacob's arm had somehow found its way around her waist, she didn't pull away. She let herself be held. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she deserved to be held gently, wanted completely, loved for exactly who she was. 2 weeks became 3. 3 became a month. The Montana winter deepened around them, but inside the cabin, something else was deepening too. Something neither of them had names for yet, but both felt growing stronger with each passing day. They developed routines. Jacob would wake first, rebuild the fire, start coffee. Magnolia would emerge from the bedroom. Their bedroom now, though they still moved around each other with careful respect, and make breakfast while he fed the animals. They'd eat together, plan the day's work, then tackle the endless tasks that winter on a ranch demanded. At night, they'd sit by the fire, sometimes talking, sometimes just existing in comfortable silence. And when they went to bed, they'd lie close enough to feel each other's warmth, but not so close it felt like pressure. Except Jacob was starting to realize he wanted the pressure, wanted to pull her close and never let go. Wanted to wake up tangled together instead of carefully separated, but he'd made a promise. He'd wait until she was ready, even if it killed him. You are thinking very loud tonight, Magnolia said from her side of the bed. Jacob turned his head to find her watching him in the darkness. Sorry, didn't mean to keep you awake. I'm not sleeping anyway. She shifted slightly. I'm also thinking, about what? She was quiet for so long he thought she wouldn't answer. Then, about how I am running out of excuses. His heart stuttered. Excuses for what? For keeping distance between us. Her voice was soft but clear. At first I need distance because I'm afraid. This is true. But now... She paused. Now I think I keep distance because it is familiar. Because being alone feels safer than risking being hurt. Jacob pushed up on one elbow to see her better. You don't have to explain, but I want to. She mirrored his position, facing him in the dim light from the banked fire. Because you have been patient for 5 weeks now. You sleep in same bed but never push, never demand, never make me feel like I owe you anything. And I think this is making me love you. The word hung in the air between them like a held breath. Love. Jacob's voice came out rough. I don't know what else to call it. Magnolia's eyes shone in the darkness. This feeling of wanting to see you smile. Of missing you when you are in barn and I am in house. Of lying awake wondering if you are also lying awake thinking of me. I am, he admitted. Every night. Wondering if you're okay, if you need anything, if maybe tonight you'll move closer. And if I moved closer right now? Jacob's breath caught. Then I'd be the happiest man in Montana. Magnolia closed the distance between them slowly. Not all at once, but inch by careful inch, until her forehead rested against his. I am still afraid, she whispered. So am I. But I am more afraid of wasting this, of being too scared to try and waking up one day full of regret for what I never let myself have. Jacob's hand came up to cup her face. What do you want, Magnolia? Right now, in this moment, what do you want? I want you to hold me, really hold me. Not careful, not gentle, but like you mean it. Like I am yours and you are mine, and neither of us has to be afraid anymore. You are sure. I am sure I am tired of being afraid more than I am sure of anything else. Jacob pulled her close then. Really close. Her head tucked under his chin, his arms wrapped around her solid warmth, their legs tangling together naturally. Magnolia made a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. Okay, he asked against her hair. Better than okay. I feel... She searched for words. I feel like I can breathe for first time in years. Like I have been holding my breath since Norway, and only now I remember how to let air in. They lay like that for long minutes, just breathing together, learning the shape of each other, the rhythm of each other's hearts. Jacob. Thank you. For what? For waiting. For letting me choose. For... Her voice thickened. For making me believe I deserve to be chosen. His arms tightened around her. You've always deserved it. You just needed time to see it yourself. I think I am starting to see it now. When I look in your eyes and see how you look at me, not like burden or curse or duty, but like I am, she paused, like I am precious. You are precious. Even though I am too tall, too strong, too much woman, especially because of all that. Jacob pulled back just enough to see her face. Magnolia, you're not too much. The world was just too small for you. It tried to make you shrink, to fold yourself into something easier to manage. But you were never meant to be easy. You were meant to be extraordinary. The tears came then. The kind that had been building for weeks, for years, maybe for a whole lifetime of being told she was wrong, simply for existing as she was. Jacob held her through it. Didn't try to stop her tears or tell her everything was fine. Just held her and let her cry for the girl in Norway who'd been called a curse. For the woman in the timber camp who'd learned to guard her heart. For every version of herself that had believed she was unlovable. When the tears finally subsided, she felt lighter, emptied out and refilled with something new. I love you, she said clearly. I think I have loved you since that day at the river when you blushed over laundry soap. But I am saying it now out loud so you know, so I know. I love you, Jacob Hayes. I love you too. His thumb brushed away her remaining tears. I've loved you since you stopped my stampeding cattle with nothing but your voice and your will, since you fixed my shirts and sang in Norwegian while you worked, since you trusted me enough to sleep in this bed even when you were terrified. So what do we do now?" Jacob smiled. "Now we stop being so careful. We stop waiting for perfect. We just be together, however that looks. One day at a time, one day at a time," she agreed. That night marked a turning point. They didn't make love. That would come later, when they were both truly ready. But they learned each other in other ways. The way Magnolia hummed in her sleep when she felt safe. The way Jacob's breathing deepened when he finally relaxed completely. The way their bodies fit together like pieces of a puzzle neither had known was incomplete. Morning came with Magnolia waking first for once. She lay there watching Jacob sleep, his face soft and unguarded in the early light. This man who'd saved her not by being her hero, but by giving her the space to save herself. Who'd loved her not by claiming her, but by letting her choose him freely. Her hand moved to rest over his heart, felt it beating steady and strong under her palm. He stirred, eyes opening slowly. When he saw her watching him, a smile spread across his face. "Morning," he murmured. "Good morning." She leaned down and kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. "Thank you for waiting for me. I'd wait forever if that's what you needed, I know. But I think—" She smiled against his lips. "I think the waiting is over." Spring came to Montana like a promise kept. The snow melted in rushing streams. Wildflowers erupted across the meadows in riots of color. The cattle grew fat on new grass. And inside the small ranch house, two people who'd started as strangers had become something neither had dared hope for. They'd become home to each other. Magnolia stood in the garden she'd planted, her hands deep in rich earth, humming a Norwegian tune. 6 months had passed since that winter night when she'd finally stopped being afraid. 6 months of learning what it meant to be loved completely, to be seen fully, to be chosen daily. She heard Jacob before she saw him, his boots on the porch, the screen door creaking open. "Letter came for you," he called. From Norway, her hands stilled in the dirt. Letters from her father had been coming monthly now. Short, stilted things that were half apology, half update on his new family. She'd responded to each one, her anger slowly melting into something like forgiveness. Not for him, for herself. So she could finally let go of the girl who'd believed she was cursed. But this letter felt different. She wiped her hands on her apron and joined Jacob on the porch. The envelope was thick, the handwriting unfamiliar. "It's not from my father," she said, turning it over. "Open it." She did. Inside was a letter written in Norwegian, along with something else, a photograph. Magnolia's breath caught. "What is it?" Jacob asked gently. "Is from my cousin Astrid." Her voice shook as she read. She say she saw my father's announcement in village paper about my marriage. She has been trying to find me for 2 years. Why? Magnolia's eyes filled with tears. Because after my mother died, my father tell everyone I run away. That I shame family. That I am dead to him. She looked up at Jacob, but Astrid never believe him. She keep looking. And now she wants to come to America to see me. "To meet you," Jacob smiled. "Then we'll send for her. There's room here. We could always use another pair of hands on the ranch, just like that. You don't even know her. I know she's family to you. That's enough." He pulled her close. "Besides, I think you could use someone from home. Someone who knew your mother. Someone who can tell you stories about the girl you were before the world tried to make you small." Magnolia buried her face in his chest. "How did I get so lucky?" "We both got lucky." He kissed the top of her head. "Two broken people finding each other and building something whole." She pulled back to look at the photograph that had come with the letter. It showed a young woman with golden hair like hers, standing tall and proud. And next to her, a smaller figure, an elderly woman with kind eyes. "My mother's sister," Magnolia whispered. "And Helga. I thought she died in the flood that took our farm. But she survived. She's alive." The tears came freely now. Happy tears. Healing tears will bring them both, Jacob decided. "Your cousin and your aunt. This ranch is big enough for family. Big enough for all the people who see you for who you really are." That night, they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and purple. Magnolia's head rested on Jacob's shoulder, his arms secure around her waist. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked quietly. Choosing me? Waiting for me? Building this slow? Never. Not for 1 second. He turned to look at her. You know what the best part is? What? Every morning I wake up and you're still here. Still choosing to stay. Still choosing me. That's not duty or obligation or tradition. That's just us choosing each other. Every single day, Magnolia smiled. I think I will choose you every day for rest of my life. Good, because I plan to do the same. They sat in comfortable silence as the stars began to emerge. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called to the night. The cattle lowed softly from the pasture, and inside the small ranch house they'd turned into a home, everything was exactly as it should be. Jacob, I'm not afraid anymore, he squeezed her gently. I know, I'm not afraid of anything, not of being too much, not of being hurt, not of loving too deeply or hoping too hard. She sat up to face him. Because even if something bad happens, even if life tries to take this away, I will have had this. This moment, this love, this proof that I am not curse. I am blessing. Jacob's eyes gleamed in the fading light. You've always been a blessing. You just needed time to see it, and you gave me that time. You gave me choice. You gave me... She touched his face gently. You gave me everything. You gave me everything, too. Gave me a reason to wake up in the morning. Gave me laughter and partnership and a future I stopped believing in. Gave me love when I thought I'd never risk my heart again. They kissed as the last light faded from the sky. Not desperate or hungry, but steady and sure. The kiss of two people who knew they had all the time in the world, who'd built something strong enough to weather any storm. When they finally pulled apart, Magnolia stood and held out her hand. Come, she said. Let us go to bed, not duty, not obligation, just choice, just love. Just two people who'd found each other against all odds and decided to build a life together, one day at a time. As they walked inside, Jacob paused at the door. You know what tomorrow is? Saturday. Our 6-month anniversary. Since the wedding, Magnolia laughed. You remember such things? I remember everything about you. Every moment, every choice you've made to stay. She pulled him close, this gentle cowboy who'd given her the world by simply giving her the freedom to choose it. Then tomorrow we celebrate, she decided. We celebrate 6 months of partnership, 6 months of building something real, 6 months of being less alone together, and the next 6 months, we keep building. We bring my family here. We grow this ranch. We love each other through every season that comes. She smiled up at him. And we remember always that we chose this, chose each other, not because we had to, because we wanted to. Best choice I ever made, Jacob said softly. Best choice we both made. They went inside together, leaving the Montana night to itself. And if anyone had been watching, they would have seen a small ranch house glowing with lamplight and love. A testament to two people who'd learned that the strongest foundations are built not on duty or tradition, but on respect, partnership, and the courage to choose each other freely, every single day. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss another tale of love, courage, and second chances. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Whether you're in Montana or Norway, Texas, or Tennessee, Mexico, or Minnesota, we'd love to hear from you. Stories like Jacob and Magnolia's remind us that real love isn't about perfection. It's about choice. It's about seeing someone completely and choosing them anyway. It's about building something together one day at a time until two broken people become whole. Thank you for watching, and remember, you deserve to be chosen too. Not for what you can do or provide, but simply for being exactly who you are.